Hello everyone, welcome to Amy's Bookshelf. So today I wanted to do a video basically talking about books that I have no interest in reading. So I've had a think about some popular books that people often talk about, like either book talk popular books or like classics, and just chosen a few that I know I'm never or probably will never pick up. So I've got a little list here. So yeah, I will just go through them, give you a bit of an explanation about why I don't think I'm going to read them, and try and explain just a bit about why I don't think I will ever pick them up. So without further ado, first on my list is a classic, starting with a classic literally, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So I was quite a late bloomer, or I think I was quite a late bloomer when it came to reading. I think a lot of people who read voraciously probably started reading from a very young age. Obviously, I learnt to read at the right age, which is what, 3? I don't know. I learnt to read at the right age, but I didn't read or get into reading and fall in love with reading until a lot later. When I was about 16, so in like year 11 or in sixth form, I started kind of dipping my toes into reading. I started getting more books out of the library. And then when I went to university and studied English literature, that's when I really started falling in love with it. And then when I was about 21, so about 5 years ago, that's when I really started reading as much as I do now, like binge reading, I suppose, for want of a better term. So I think I'm a pretty late bloomer. And when I was a teenager, I very much felt that sort of pressure to read the classics, read all the books that you're supposed to read that make you like a good reader or a well-rounded reader. And one of those books was Pride and Prejudice. And I have a copy of Pride and Prejudice because it's part of my classics collection. And when I was a teenager, I felt like I had to read it. So I did attempt to read it. And honestly, I just didn't know what was going on. I have a bit of a love-hate relationships with classics anyway. And I just really felt like I didn't understand why I needed to read it, and that's still the same thing now. I know the vague storyline. I don't think I've seen the film, so maybe I will watch the film so I can probably understand the storyline, but I just don't really have any interest. And I think a lot of classics generally, they shouldn't be books that you force yourself to read. I think it's nice to have read some of them so you can have an opinion, so you can talk about them, but you definitely don't have to read any. And for me, Pride and Prejudice is just going to be one of those books that I just don't think I'll ever bother sitting down reading cover to cover, because I think I'd be forcing myself through it, and honestly I just don't have the energy to try and understand what's going on. Obviously it was written a long time ago, the language is very different to the language that we use nowadays, and yeah, so I just don't have any interest. So yeah, that is number 1. Then number 2, the second book that I have chosen, which is one book, but I'll kind of go on to talk about some other books, but that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Now, this is obviously a very, very popular book, and by the way, this goes for all of the books on this list. This is like no shade to the books themselves. They're obviously popular for a reason, and I'm so happy for people that find genuine joy from reading them. That's great. We don't want to stop people doing that. This is not me telling you not to read them, it's just saying that I'm probably never going to read them. This one won't come as a surprise to anybody because I just don't like fantasy. I'm not a fantasy gal. And so books like A Court of Thorns and Roses and that whole series, it's just not going to be something I ever pick up. So there are 5 books in that series, which is a lot of books to get through for a start. That is a commitment, because they're fantasy books, so they're long as well. So I just don't really want to do it. But like I said, I know they're popular for a reason, and I'm very happy for people that like them. And also I have a lot of unfinished series on my shelf anyway. I'll have a video coming soon with a bit more about that, but I feel like I should really focus on finishing the series I've already started rather than reading a new one, especially that's 5 books long, because that is quite long. So yeah, like I said at the beginning, also in this bracket of books, I have a list here, are books like Six of Crows, Throne of Glass, Red Queen, Serpent and Dove, and The Cruel Prince. All of those books and all of those associated series, I just don't have any interest in reading. But like I said, I'm so happy for people that do like them. But I don't like fantasy. I find it confusing. The world building is just a lot of energy for my brain. There's a lot of made up words. It takes a long time to understand what's going on, all the rules. If there's like magic, trying to understand the logistics of that. it's just not for me, and so I won't be picking that up. But if you do like ACOTAR and you want to read ACOTAR, you go for it. Tell me if you like it. I'll live vicariously through you, but I just don't have any interest in doing that myself. Yeah, so that's number 2, or, you know, a bracket of books in this list. And then number 3 on this list is Spare by Prince Harry. So this was published earlier this year, or maybe, yeah, no, it was earlier this year. I think it was right at the beginning of the year. And honestly, I firstly am not a royalist. I feel quite apathetic towards the royal family. I don't necessarily feel any like burning emotions towards any of them as individuals, but I understand why people are very angry as them for what they represent and the institution generally, and so I honestly just don't have any interest in what they're doing and what's going on, and yeah, reading any books that they have published. So that is the kind of first reason I would never pick up the book. The second reason is that I have really strong feelings about books being successful when they are not written by quote unquote authors, and I don't really want to contribute to the success of a book that's written by a celebrity. I don't have anything against books that are written by celebrities. For example, I really enjoyed the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman, and I think they're okay to enjoy. It's no crime to enjoy books that are written by celebrities, but it's really frustrating that that is actually a perfect example of a series, as is Spare, of a book that was published and immediately was skyrocketed to like the #1 bestseller on every list ever. And I understand why they are. They obviously have a lot more exposure than, say, a debut author who has finally managed to get a book published that they've been working on for 15 years. And I understand in principle why the celebrities end up with these really popular books, but I just find it really frustrating. I've read so many books by self-published authors, that are published by independent publishers, that just don't have the same money, they don't have the same budget behind all of their publicity and their marketing, and so they can never reach this level of success. And I just find that really frustrating. And that's not something against Prince Harry in particular, or Richard Osman, or whoever the celebrity is, but I just don't really want to perpetuate that cycle. So that is the second reason I won't be reading it. The third reason is, honestly, I feel like I've already read it from all of the tweets, the social media posts, the sound bites. I think I know enough, and I think I know and can determine for sure that I don't want to and will not be reading Spare. But you know, if you want to do that, you feel free. And then the final book on this list is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. Now, if you don't know, I read Normal People probably 5 years ago, and I wasn't a fan. I subsequently have watched the TV series and loved that. I actually want to rewatch the TV show because I think it just, for me, worked so much better on screen than it did on the page. But I overall found Normal People a bit frustrating, a bit boring. I didn't like the lack of speech marks. I felt like it was a stylistic choice that was done for no other reason than sort of being different. So for me, I just never really connected with Sally Rooney's writing, and for that reason I don't think I'd be interested in reading any of her other books. Also, similarly to ACOTAR and probably also Spare, there are so many people reading books like Beautiful People, Where Are You? They've done YouTube videos, they've done Instagram posts, they've done TikToks, whatever. I don't really need to contribute to that. They're already very popular books. I don't think I'd be saying anything new or groundbreaking if I were to read it. So again, just not really interested. It really wouldn't be benefiting me in any way. And honestly, I feel like hating Normal People has actually become part of my personality. And if I read Beautiful People, Where Are You and liked it, it would just be very confusing for me, because then I'd feel like, do I need to reread Normal People to check that my opinion hasn't changed? And I don't really want to go there. I want to let sleeping dogs lie and leave my hatred for that book where it is. So yeah, I won't be reading that. But again, if you want to read it and you enjoy it, then I'm very happy for you. So yeah, that concludes my list. They're just some popular books I just wanted to put out there that I don't really care for and I'm not going to be reading. But let me know if you have read them and you really think I should change my mind, you really think I should make an effort to read them, and I will consider it. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, I've got a new video coming soon about unfinished series. I'll also be doing my February wrap up soon because we're getting towards the end of the month. And I've just got loads of other ideas, so I'm really excited to keep getting some videos out for you. So yeah, if you did like this, please like it, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!